turns his eyes away from the poor. Even his prayer is an abomination to the Lord. We remain in poverty when we help nobody. Give a helping hand to the brother man.
Some say it is a disease. Some others say it is an addiction. Some other group says it's a disorder. Whatever we finally agree it is, there is no disagreement to the harm drug abuse cause both to the victim, his family, and the society. Mr. Keji Hamilton was once a teenager with dreams.
My name is Keji Hamilton. Originally, I was born to an imam father, the last born of 6 children. I grew up like every other child. And as a Muslim, my original names were Suleiman Shaibu. And I started going to school, and eventually I had the opportunity to study pharmacy in UI, but I could not complete my course because towards the end of the 100 level, a friend met me, a coursemate, and he gave me a little book to read, The Ancients of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and of course introduced me to marijuana. And that was it. After I finished reading that book, the information was really bad, you know. And I just concluded that it was pointless going to school. So I dropped out of school, came back home, and I had a little argument with my father. Already I've said in my mind that the best thing I should do now is to probably go into music. So when I suggested music to my dad, and he was like, my child can't do music. And he said, can't you see what music has done to that man they call Fela Anikulapo? That was it. So a few days later, I left home, hoping to be back in 7 years, and I went straight to African Shrine, and that was it. Of course, I met with Femi Kuti, who later took me to Kalakuta, where I met with Fela Kuti, and because we already had some discussion, and I told him I would have loved to do music, but I'm stranded because my parents are not supporting, and he said I could learn how to do music in his father's house, and that was it. So that was how I became a bona fide member of the Kalakuta Empire, and along the line got into music and became the guitarist of the Eqypt band. And of course we started touring, and then we toured the United States and Europe. But it was within that period also that I got introduced to cocaine and heroin by a guy that saw me after I came down from the stage at the shrine. As at this time, Fela was having a problem with the government. He was in jail. I'm talking 84, 85 now. And it was this guy that introduced me to coke and heroin. And so drugs became the problem for me. And so because of drugs, heavily addicted, I had no direction, I had no plans, I had no future. My life was at a dead end. And you know, these drugs took me into dimensions of life that you can't comprehend. I was involved in a lot of criminal activities. I was always in police cells, you know.
Mr. Keji Hamilton was addicted to drugs for several years, and severally he tried to quit to no avail.
With all this lifestyle, it was getting wild for me, really wild. And the more I hated drugs, the more I was doing it. I really wanted to stop. And severally, even after Fela was released in 1986 and we started touring again, severally, I tried getting out of drugs. I remember there was a time that I had to be admitted into a facility in San Francisco, and after 2 weeks, I was discharged. I was supposed to go and join the band in Dallas, Texas. But that same day, as I got out of the hospital, instead of me to go straight to the airport and pick a local flight and go to Dallas, I went straight to downtown, and then I started shooting drugs again. Another time I was treated in Off-Bank in Germany, but I kept going back to drugs despite all this treatment. So I was completely helpless. until I encountered a supernatural turnaround. And that's the reason for what I'm doing right now. Currently, I can tell you that I am the coordinator of House of Joy Drug Rehabilitation Center.
Global Center for Drug Eradication was birthed out of Mr. Keji Hamilton's desire to help others get out of the shackles of drug addiction.
Because of my past drug life, knowing that drug addicts need help, also finding out that for a drug addict to be set free, you need supernatural intervention. That's why I'm into this, because they need help and somebody need to help them. It is a faith-based rehab center. What does it mean faith-based? We don't use medications. We use God. We use prayers. And we use information. And since inception in 2009, we've graduated about 8 sets.
The initial decision to take drugs is voluntary for most people, but repeated use can lead to brain changes that challenge an addicted person's self-control and interfere with the ability to resist intense urges to take drugs.
My name is Fela Anikulapo. I'm a psychologist with Global Center for Drug Eradication, Nigeria. Many parents are focused on providing money, accommodation, the luxuries of life for their children, without paying close attention to what they really need. We've had so many cases of children that have dropped out of school, from secondary school, that are on the streets, mixing up with street urchins, selling drugs or running errands for drug addicts, thereby being introduced to drugs. But this did not just start from the streets. Everything starts from the home.
I started smoking in the year 2005, and through my brother-in-law, he introduced me into smoking. Ever since I entered, I find it difficult to stop.
After my secondary school, which I started to move with bad guys, where they initiate me to secret code, which is called Supremmost Area Confraternity. So along the line, they introduced me to smoking, marijuana, Eqypt.
I've been on drugs for the past 12 years, and it wasn't easy for me to quit.
And it happened in 2010. A friend introduced me to drug, cocaine and heroin, that wrecked my life.
I got involved in drug in 1981 through a friend of mine. When the man introduced me to the drugs, I thought it was a enjoyable thing. I started playing, but to my greatest surprise, I found it difficult when I entered it to withdraw myself back.
I got to be doing drugs through my business, because when I close for my work, I have a cab that I used to run later in the day. Then I got to know drug through one of my customers, who is a dealer. She used to hire my cab. I would go and drop her.
I was living with my brother to the extent that I refused to stay with him. I moved to the streets and started sleeping outside.
And to the glory of God, I was being among those that was intake in February 27, 2016. It wasn't an easy journey, 6 months journey. And there was a stage that I feel like leaving the place. To the glory of God, I was one of the brethren that graduated on that program.
God has been faithful to me right from the beginning of my life. I'm a National Secretary of National Union of Road Transport Worker. Mushin LOB unit, I'm a unit secretary. And God is favoring me, blessed me with substance and material things. I have 5 bosses that when they introduce me to the drug, I think it's enjoyable things. There is money to spend. But when I got deep inside, I find it, my life becomes something else. To the extent that I lost everything. My life became miserable. My marriage was shattered.
It happens that I could no longer cope with my family, with the way I'm into the drug. So I told my wife that I'll be traveling to Lagos to see my siblings, to see my mom and other and my family, my parents. You know. I just came back to Lagos. I dropped my bag. I went down to Ireland. Went to look for where they are selling this cocaine and heroin, because it's like the thing has got into me. I was not able to come out of it. So I forgot about my wife, my children. I forgot about them. Forgetting that I left some people right there in Warri Delta State.
Sir, to be sincere, it is not easy. With God, God make it to be easy for me. Through the Johnson, the pains, all the suffering that I passed through.
And through the teaching and the knowledge that we have been had here, and through the counsel of the great man of God, especially Pastor Keji, I mean, the way, during the life experience that he has had, he used to pass it across to us. He used to tell us that all we need to do is to follow the same example that he did. Say we will live without drugs.
And after being graduated, you will be allowed to go home and spend 1 week. So if you are interested in coming back for the vocational training, it's left for you. But you know, I made up my mind that 6 months may not be enough for me to quit drug. That something else may occur. That what I needed to do is to still come back for the vocational training. I'm learning Cobra, and I didn't pay 1 naira. Both the transport, the feeding, everything. In fact, everything it takes for someone to live a good life. And I thank God, because it wasn't an easy comparing to the economic of the situation of the country today.
And by the grace of God, life has become so sweet for me now. I was no more thinking the way I was thinking before. Things have changed, and I will give God the glory.
Global Center for Drug Eradication, our vision is simply creating a drug-free Nigeria. I want to go ahead to let us know the effects of drugs. School dropout, cultism, immorality, criminal tendencies, suicidal thoughts, murders. They are all connected to drugs. Even your almighty terrorism is connected to drugs. You can't blow yourself up with bombs if you are not under the influence. That's the truth. And our street crimes like robbery, burglary and all that, they are all connected to drugs. And before I go ahead, I also like you to know that the drugs right now is getting out of hand, because when we talk about drugs, what our mind goes to is marijuana, cocaine, heroin, street drugs, narcotics. But it's gone beyond that, because there's a new generation trend going on right now, whereby the new generation, they are not interested in marijuana and coke and all that, because these ones, you have to carry a lot of paraphernalia around, because you need a cocaine bottle, a bicarbonate of soda, a Pyrex pipe to do cocaine, you need a foil paper to run heroin, you need Rizla to smoke marijuana, you need to cut it and get the seeds off and the sticks off, and it has odor, so if you do it, people easily know. So, the current trend is prescription drugs. Drugs, codeine, tramadol, name them. And other, Rofinol, and others I cannot really pick up right now, Lexoprime, Triptizol, on and on, which is ravaging our youths and teenagers, especially in our campuses.
Global Center for Drug Eradication has recorded enormous success in its 7 years of service to humanity.
As the name implies, eradication of drugs. How can that happen? Are we going to go head on fighting drug barons and drug traffickers? No, that's a job for the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. But what I believe in strongly is that you can always get rid of any commodity if you can kill the market base. And so there won't be drugs if nobody is taking drugs. And so from my experience with rehabilitation, I've discovered that every drug addict that have gone through rehabilitation, they all started as teenagers, 14, 15, 16, 17. Some started while they were in secondary schools and all that. Some even started in primary schools. So that is why we in Global Center for Drug Eradication, what we basically do is to take this information to schools, tertiary educations, and create awareness of the dangers of drug. And then we also take this information to the street, heavily populated areas, where we can create awareness of the destructive tendency of drug if you get into drugs, so that people can be aware and then save these children from going in. They abstain, they don't touch it because they know how dangerous it is, how devastating the effect is, and so they stay out of drugs. And then that means in the future we have a community and a society that is drug-free.
Over the years, we at Global Center for Drug Eradication Nigeria has taken it upon ourselves, work in collaboration with House of Joy, to bring sanity back to our society. But there are so many things that cannot be done alone. We have taken it upon ourselves to create awareness in schools, streets, churches, mosques, to ensure that we catch them young. Catch them young in the sense that the information they're able to get now will help them in determining the kind of decision they take later.
We will like to do more. There are more drug addicts out there than we know of. We will like to help more men reunion with their families, their dreams, and live a better life. We would like for you to join us in changing more lives.
However, apart from keeping our children away from drugs by providing information, what about those who are hooked already? That is where rehabilitation comes in. They need to be rehabilitated. It's very important that they are rehabilitated. We shouldn't give up on drug addicts. We shouldn't think that they cannot be rehabilitated. I, for one, was an addict for 15 years. And today, I'm actually helping addicts. And I can tell you I've been out of drugs for 23 years. And so, there is a need for every drug addict to be rehabilitated.
This work is enormous and it cannot be done alone. We have experienced people working with us. We have heard from Keji Hamilton, a reformed drug addict that is going all out to give back to the society. Giving to the happenings around us, children killing their parents under the influence of drugs, wives killing their husbands under the influence of drugs, husbands killing their wives, husbands selling their children for money under the influence of drugs, and so many damages of drugs.
And this is why I am calling for a concerted effort. We all need to put our hands together. Private companies, the government sector, individuals, philanthropies, we need to fight this scourge. Because I can tell you, as a rehabilitator and a drug counselor and a consultant, this drug thing actually is highly among the rich. It's just that we try to cover it, and it gets to a point we can no longer cover it. And many people have sent their children to the psychiatrist and all that, and trying to fight these drugs. But I'm telling you, this is an area that needs a whole lot of investment, and we need to come together to fight this scourge called drug.